before we start the show today, the t-shirt selling competition is still going on. I have my Sad Boy Summer shirt on. Here's the deal. I think we're winning right now. I've not seen projected numbers at this point, but it seems like we're winning. And I really want to win. So to assure that we will win, I'm going to sweeten the pot yet a little bit. Keep in mind, if you buy a shirt, you already get to call in for the All Requests AGD Radio next month. But I'm going to make it a little bit better. If we win the competition, I will use the money and probably spend some extra money, but I will use that $100 to compete against 3 fourth graders in a spelling bee contest. Okay? That sounds awesome, right? Here's the best part. Your t-shirt is your ticket to the event. So if you've bought the shirt and you're like, fuck yeah, you're good. We're going. Maybe get somebody else's shirt. Maybe get a second shirt. Maybe like gift somebody a shirt to be like, hey, Josh is doing this thing. Like everybody needs to buy shirts. Like let's run this. We're already winning. I want to buy 100. I want to kill everybody because that's the kind of competitive asshole that I am. So go buy a shirt. And when we win, I compete against 3 fourth graders in a spelling bee. Friend of the program, Sadie, is already, she's a teacher, is already on it. She's finding some very smart fourth graders to dummy me. So get excited about that. So make sure you buy a shirt, get your friends to buy a shirt. And remember, your shirt is not only your hotline to the All Request AGD Radio in August, but it is also your ticket to the spelling bee against 3 fourth graders. I can't make it any better than that. Today is going to be a pretty cool podcast because my beautiful, sexy, amazing wife, Anastasia, has joined us in the studio. And we're going to... What? Go ahead. Hi. We're going to do a little bit of a kind of a thought or a project that we had been more or less working on our own time, and I hope you guys are really going to dig it and enjoy it. But first, welcome to AGD, a podcast for every mall rat, Jansport, backpack, emo kid struggling with the boredoms of everyday adult life.
Thank you.
And what?
I guess I was a mall rat for like a week.
You were a mall rat?
Yeah. Jansport wearing, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Emo, probably.
You had a shirt.
I think I fit it, yeah.
You had a shirt that said, Bert is my homeboy.
Right, yeah. I fit the title, the tagline of your podcast.
All right, then hit the music. Broadcasting today from the Union Fitness Studios. Union Fitness is located on the North Shore of Pittsburgh. Union Fitness is more than a traditional gym. It's a place where you can transform yourself inside and out, and actually outside. As we just saw one of
Commonplace.
The boot camps happening at Commonplace in the Mexican War Streets. It was very cool. You transform yourself inside and out based around a variety of classes like yoga, fitness, strength, performance training, outside boot camps with Siege, all that kind of stuff. At Union Fitness, they genuinely believe that it is their duty to hold themselves and their clients to a higher standard. They practice what they preach and uphold the values that make Union Fitness the community that it is. So go to unifitness.com today and sign up for a consultation through Union. There is
strength.
And there is no greater strength than 2 people who are willing to start something together and suck at it.
Pretty much, yeah. You talking about camping?
I'm talking. That was
podcast.
They call that a segue in the business, but yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about one of our camping trips, and Josh takes a lot of notes. He journals and he writes down what happens every day. Normally at the end of I guess at the beginning of the day, you would write the notes for the day before.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much how I did it. It was the day before. I would write down and kind of like when I would get to points where I wanted your opinion or your take on something, we would scratch that down and do that kind of stuff. A lot of the times it was while we were driving to the adventure for the day.
Yeah, which seems like it'd be hard because you're You're driving and it's hard to write.
The notes. So I have them with me. These 2 books. All of the first adventures are in here, and the second, past 2 years of adventures are in here. This is the first years of adventures, and I'll try to find some of the ones where I'm like struggle bussing it as we're driving. Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, here's some. It's some questionable scat right there, but yeah, these are really cool, and
We can use those for your spelling bee. We can scan
oh
through
my
and
God,
see which
no.
words
Jesus.
need corrected.
Yeah, no, that's bad. I'll have them edit these. But so we're going to talk about today something that I think a lot of people who know us think or know us for, or something that we do together, and that's we love to go camping. We're big outdoors people. We love to camp. We love to ride bikes. We love to kayak. We love to other fun things outside. Rafting.
Climbing.
Climbing.
You know.
We got a little bit into snowboarding last year, but that was not
Not good at it.
that was
No,
not
I'm not
your
good.
cup of tea.
I used to be good at it, and then little kids were better than me, and I kept falling, and it hurt.
Where what was your level of like outdoorsiness when you were a kid?
I didn't camp, but I rode my bike all over the neighborhood. I like rode it to get ice cream on a busy ass street. Had not a Razor scooter, but like a knockoff scooter. Had a snowboard, had a giant sled, would stand on a saucer sled. Pretty sure I climbed some trees, played some tag in the neighborhood, like hiding in this huge neighborhood with like little kids. Like, I don't know how anyone's gonna find me. Like, I'm in a fucking tree. Like, I'm just in a tree alone for like 4 hours and no one's gonna find me. But no camping, no sleeping in a tent. Maybe somebody had a tent, but it was in their backyard and it wasn't like real camping. And I rode BMX on the South Park BMX park, but I wasn't like finding bugs or looking for birds.
Yeah, weren't mushroom walking.
I remember I was like in a creek and I like turned over the rocks to find
salamanders,
crayfish or whatever. And yeah, so it's not, I didn't go on hikes. I think I walked around a park on like a trail, kind of, like a Moon Township, but never anything.
How old
crazy.
were you when you started your first fire? Like campfire fire, not like burning shit in the backyard like a crazy person.
Well, burning shit in the backyard was probably like 13 and we like burned it and then like took off.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably like on my birthday. Like not on my birthday, but the Smokies trip.
Yeah, which was designed to be a getaway for your 30th birthday.
Yeah. So trying to think, was that the treasure map one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Josh made me a map that like was dirty and wrinkled and it was like burned, maybe. Like he tried to make it look like it was an old map and it had all the different spots we were going to. I want to say the Smokies was first, right? We spent like 4 days there and then Mammoth Caves, right? Was next, and
Indiana Dunes.
The dunes, yeah, and then I guess we went home after
No. Then we polished it off at Millennium Park in Chicago to see a free Whitney concert where we sat front row.
Yes, that was the Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
How could you forget about that?
Because I'm just thinking about the Smokies, you know, like. But yeah, I forgot. Yeah, the Whitney, a free Whitney show, like.
Right.
Amazing.
All told, I believe it was an 8-day trip.
Yeah.
That spanned quite a distance, a lot of hours in the car, a lot of challenging hours, and we thought it would be cool to talk about this because a lot of people are always like, how do you get into this? How do you start? Like,
How did you get into it
how did I get into it?
as a kid?
Oh, as a
What did
kid?
you do as a kid? We didn't talk about you.
Yeah, okay. So as a kid, my dad was a big outdoorsman, loved to camp, loved to do all that kind of stuff. And we would do like basically go to like these RV park things and like hang out
Gross.
around there. And like do a little bit of fishing and that kind of stuff because his parents would come in, they had an RV, they would park there, we would go hang out there. But then as far as like outdoor activities, like famously my dad took me fishing once, and when I went to cast for the first time, it was this awesome Looney Tunes Tasmanian Devil fishing rod, and instead of holding onto it, I just threw the whole fucking thing in the lake. And that was traumatizing for the rest of my life.
You didn't find it?
He dove in, but I don't think he recovered it. I don't remember him recovering it. I just remember like him handing, like I remember the whole build up to the process.
That's
and
how
being,
Space Jam started.
Right, that's how Space Jam started. Michael Jordan threw the Looney Tunes into the lake. But yeah, it was like this really weird experience. Anyway, so I think as far as like outdoor stuff, like we rode our bikes all the time. They would take us, my mom and my dad would take us to this community college not far from our house, where it was like kind of a wooded area where you could ride bikes and do a bunch of stuff there. And then creek walks, which was at McConnell's Mills, where we would go up and we would get out and we would just go. There's a part of McConnell's Mills called Jennings Nature Park, and that's where we would go. And there was a nice creek that after a big rain or a couple of days of rain got about like hip high at points, and we'd take the dogs and the dogs would go running through the water, and we would, just be a whole family outside just walking around and playing in the water and in the woods. And
That's cute.
it was really awesome. And I think that's probably that's where my like that kind of stuff came from. Like obviously spent plenty of time camping in the backyard and having fires and marshmallows and all that kind of stuff growing up. That was a pretty big part of my life. And then when we would go to Michigan to visit my dad's family, they lived not far from the Warren Dunes in Lake Michigan, which is one of the things that I was so excited to show you on this trip, and you absolutely hated it.
The sand was too hot.
Yeah, so like a lot of the time in the dunes, and then like not where we were, well, a little bit where we were, but we went to the Indiana Lakeshore dunes, not into Michigan itself, but where we were when I was a kid, it was basically just woods led right up to the beach. So, there were different like creeks that would basically, you could follow. The lake would cut a creek down through the beach and into the woods. It was really awesome. And there were like clay pits back there that you could like, you would rub this clay all over your body and it would be like rock hard. And then you'd like walk out, you look like a swamp monster and stuff. Like it was awesome. And that's like so much of when we're on our little adventures and stuff, I get flashbacks, or I smell something that I haven't smelled in a minute and I'm like, oh, that's like this, or, something like that. So, but yeah, no, that's my, I would say I maybe had more outdoors experience than you, but totally was babied the entire time. Never like had to do any of it for myself. Like hikes probably weren't any longer than a mile or two. Like it was not what we got into in the Smokies.
Yeah. I think, I don't know if it's like a trend, but when you're like in your late 20s or 30s, it's just like you should go hiking.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like that is what people think is cool, to go travel and see national parks. And like, I don't know if it's just everywhere because that's what I follow, like some of the outdoor people, but it feels like that is the hobby that is like destined sometimes.
I think when you're in your 20s, especially after you're done with your early 20s and all you really cared about was, getting fucked up and fucking, right? That's about it. you kind of like turn into this like you're not lost, but you're definitely like pushing on the walls of your environment and your boundaries, and you're like trying to figure out what's going to push back, like finding out you're not invincible, finding out that things can humble you. And even still, when we were in Yosemite last year, man, were we humbled with altitude poisoning and all sorts of shit. So I think hiking and the outdoors is one of the last great humblers that we still have in the world. And that's where
It's like, if you think video games are hard, like try to go push yourself. Like you're going to spend, months trying to beat this game. Like go outside and try to hike up a fucking mountain, because like you're going to hurt depending on your physical fitness. Like you could be very sore, you could fall, you could encounter like a creature that maybe you would battle in a video game. I don't know why I'm like comparing it to a video game, but it's like it's real and it's hard, and once you finish it, it feels just as good as like completing anything else. And then like the view is what you're in it for, so you're just maybe struggling for hours just to see something that maybe not everyone gets to see, because not everyone can do it. And it's like, if you like take a step back and you're like, wow, like I have my arms and legs, they're functioning right now. Not everybody can do this. So like you can kind of be grateful once you get to the top. You're like, I did something not everyone can do. And I don't know, there's fresh air. It was challenging, So
well, and I love the so you spent normally anywhere from 5 to 10 hours doing this activity, right? And it took you all day, and then your reward is to get to this view that makes you feel so small. Like you are internally battling with your own brain the entire time. You're like, I can do it. I'm tough. I'll get through this. I'm not going to, like give up. I'm going to fucking do it. And then once you get to the top of that thing, or you find the bend where the river comes or whatever, it's like everything that I just went through means nothing to these mountains. Everything that I just struggled for and was like literally in tears or at the edge of my rope, and I'm like, fuck this, I'm never gonna fucking do this again. And then you get to this clearing and you're like, nothing up here cares. And it's like this really settling experience. It's a good gut check.
Yeah, there was I don't know what hike it was called, but there was one where we were really up there and you couldn't hear anything. And that was so weird to not hear.
That was
anything.
The jump off, wasn't it?
I don't.
On the way to the Bunyan?
It was kind of like foggy.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
So we were on our way to the Bunyan, and we it was like, oh, it's an extra half a mile. We'll do that. And we got up there, and it was just a cloud had moved in, and we were surrounded by fog. You couldn't hear anything. You couldn't see more than like a foot in front of your face. And it was just dead silent.
Yeah. It's like you can easily meditate up there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like you don't need to try hard. There's nothing.
There's nothing to distract you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the first piece of advice we're gonna give is get an REI credit card, become an REI member, and yeah, it's a lot of money up front. We get that. That was actually how our wedding, instead of getting towels and like all this other stuff. What is that thing called? Registry. Instead of doing like household items and stuff, we did an REI registry. And that's how we paid for a lot of the stuff we needed to go on the trip that next year, essentially.
Yeah. Like the best thing was the tent.
Right.
It was like an REI. We still have it. It smells like mildew right now. But Greg and Anastasia got that for us. And
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. It lasted a very long time. And
5 years.
Didn't even like leak or anything. Didn't really get any holes. The only problem was the poles, elasticity, but it went on a lot of trips. It was torn down and put up over and over and over again, and it worked really well. And I think at that time we probably didn't like want to spend all this money. It's like you don't have to spend a lot of money to go outside, but
Right.
if you want to sleep in a tent, you kind of need all the sleeping bags and like
Things
the
to
warmer
cook.
clothes and things to cook with. And some people never like sleep in a tent when they, go hiking. So I don't know why we do that. Like, I don't get good sleep. I probably wouldn't get good sleep at like an Airbnb either, but
I think you don't. So if you're sleeping in an Airbnb, you don't get to be outside as long.
yeah. I would love to be somewhere where you could have the tent and you could take off the rain fly and just like look at the stars. Like that's a thing you can do.
Right.
Did we ever? I don't know if we ever did that. We did it in like a car in the Yaris.
Yeah. I think everywhere we've ever been, and
Shady.
during the time we're doing, there's too much. There's either A, there could be rain, or
Yeah.
B, it is too shady and there's a lot of mildew, or not a lot of mildew, just dew
There's a lot
on
of
the
milk.
on the ground and in the air, and so like it's very damp and moist. And then when we had the opportunity to do it in Colorado, it was so cold we needed the extra covering.
It was way too cold.
Yeah. So one is spend the money, get your credit card from REI, get the points back, do the whole 9 yards. The second one is you cannot do
Or borrow it.
Or borrow it.
You can rent
can
gear
borrow.
from Three Rivers Outdoors.
Okay.
So if you don't want to buy it all up front, if you're not sure if sleeping in a tent is for you in your 30s, just rent it.
Okay. So you could rent it. The second one is you just gotta fucking go do it.
Yeah, you can't
There's
plan
no training.
like you can kind of map out where you want to go, but it's best to not plan every little detail because it's never going to work out that way.
It's never gonna work out, and like have like some things. I would say like if you're gone for a week, have 5 things you want to do, and know that you're gonna do 3 of them, and the other 7 things you do are gonna be these amazing life-changing experiences that you weren't prepared for.
Like meeting strangers and looking at planets through telescopes.
That is definitely one of the things that happened on this trip. And then my third and final piece of advice, and this is a good segue into what we're going to talk about today. But my third and final piece of advice is, where the fuck is it? The less you resist, the more rewarding the adventure. And that is a quote from the legendary Captain Liz Clark.
She's the best.
She is the best. So let's get into our little adventure here. And
What are you going to do?
I'm going to read it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to read it and then jump in as you see fit.
Okay.
Okay? We are 3 sleeps from the departure of our first real camping trip, a 10-day expedition stretching that of the Great Smoky Mountains, Mammoth Caves, Indiana Dunes, and Chicago. I am suffering from the effects of an infected wisdom
Do you want me to
tooth,
read this for you?
Nope.
I got this.
which basically means I can't open my mouth the whole way to eat. My wife, Anastasia, is dealing with a trunk full of anxiety over the trip. You see, she is the type of person to plan and research and then plan and then research to the point of a stalemate.
Yes.
While on the other hand, I haven't thought twice about something in my entire life. This sole fact makes us a great team, but also strains our relationship unnecessarily. Most people bring books on vacation. Me, I'm not much of a reader. So instead, I've decided to write a photo journal, hopefully publish it, but if not, this will be an exercise in reflection.
I'm looking at myself.
Yeah.
I forgot about your wisdom teeth.
Yes.
That sucks.
Yes. So literally, I think it was like a Monday. I woke up and I couldn't open my mouth. And like, I was
Yeah.
trying to like call, I think you were at work, and I was trying to like call different places like to like go get a dentist to look at my mouth. And I'm like, I can't open my mouth. And they're like, sir, you're going to have to speak up. And I'm like, I can't. It was bad.
I feel like Kanye
Yeah.
through the wire.
But essentially what had happened was So we left on a Friday or something like that. And 2 days before that, I had a wisdom tooth extracted. And so I couldn't eat on the one side of my mouth. I wasn't supposed to eat anything hard. I was supposed to just like
It's pre-camping checklist item.
Pre-camping
Get your
checklist.
wisdom teeth out before
Yeah,
you go camping.
exactly. So, yeah. So that's that.
Learn how to gauze your own mouth. Like
We
that's
started from the drop,
yeah.
so that was a good way to start. All right. I guess we left on Saturday.
I'm gonna read this one. for
Okay,
you.
you want to read
Yeah,
this one? All
I'm
right.
gonna read this one for you.
This one's at least kind of edited, so. All
Okay.
right, go ahead.
Saturday, August 4th, 2018. So the day after. My day started at 7 a.m.
Keep in mind that Anastasia's reading my thoughts now.
My
so.
original feeling was excitement and panic. There was still a little packing to be done since Friday's efforts were interrupted by grocery shopping. I'm scratching my nose. I had finished packing the car by 9 a.m. This was roughly the time Anastasia woke up. Yep, that sounds like it. It was at this point I had a hunch we would be doing two things. One, setting up camp in the dark, which Josh hates. Two, leaving afternoon. 12:30 p.m. I'm in our car parked outside Zeke's Coffee in East Liberty. Anastasia's inside getting a bag of coffee for our trip. When she emerges, she's carrying two bags. One is a bag of coffee, and the other is a small white pastry bag. She gets in the car and shows me she has bought 2 scones. This gesture in itself is a loving one. However, I'm only 2 days removed from it. I forgot again that you had your wisdom teeth taken out. Oh my gosh. It is this small moment that is important for you to know because it is the paradox that partially defines our relationship. Oh my god.
You're like just trying to do something nice for me.
Ugh,
Are you crying?
my nose is so itchy.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just kind of like this hilarious little moment where like you just totally forget that I can't eat anything hard.
I'm trying to be nice for like the first time in my life,
Yeah.
and you can't even eat it.
I
Like,
can't
it's
even eat it.
stupid.
Yeah. So.
We spent 12 hours driving to the Smoky Mountains, stopping along the way for food and to look at the stunning scenery of the Appalachian Mountains. And most importantly, we stop at the beef jerky outlet. Yeah, this is good. This is it. Anastasia's favorite foods are the following in no particular order: steak, cherries, kettle corn, pickles, and beef jerky. And wouldn't you know it, at the border of West Virginia, we found an establishment that sold 3 out of 5 of those foods. We get to camping around midnight and go to work setting up the tent. Both of us are exhausted. We finally get the tent up and go to lay down. It's hot, muggy, and the noises surrounding us are a chorus of cicadas and rushing water. For me, exhaustion sets in and sleep comes quickly. But for Anastasia, the night was restless.
So I interview you the next
Okay.
morning, and this is what you said. You said, I'm the type of person who likes to plan things. And right now, half awake at 2 a.m., I feel like I don't know enough about the trip, about everything. The campsite and surrounding areas are covered in warnings about bears. These signs creep their way into my mind, creating irrational explanations for every bump in the night. The locust planted on the tree 2 feet from the tent is annoying, and despite the number of times I toss and turn, I can't get comfortable. I can't stop thinking about a bear taking a casual stroll through camp, smelling something, and deciding to invade our tent.
So the bears
Yeah.
that was like my first time where they said, bears could be at the site, but it's not common, or we've had some. I forget if that one.
That was
Had
in
any.
Colorado was the one where they named it. But not in the
Okay.
Smokies.
It was called sprinkles because
Yeah.
it like ate a bunch of sprinkles.
Ate donuts.
I thought it ate sprinkles out of like a bucket.
Oh, you're so
For
right.
pancakes or
You're so
something
right.
like
You're so
that.
right.
So did the Smokies campsite have like a bear, like an actual bear warning, or like, oh, this is just like a precautionary thing, like make sure you put your food away? Because I think like my first time hearing that, I got real paranoid. Like, oh, my clothes smell like food and I'm sleeping in them, and like, what if the bear smells it? But there's a bunch of people around me. And this has happened on many trips where I'm just freaking out about like an animal attacking me.
I think when you are even I wouldn't say we're seasoned by any stretch at this point, but we at least have experience. Anytime you see the bear warning or a mountain lion warning or whatever, rattlesnake warning, I saw one in Maryland, freaked me out. It's gonna set into you. There is a instinct in our brains that we do not want to come across something that is bigger than us that can kill us. We're human. That's it, right? That's why we slept in caves instead of just outside in the prairies.
I've seen too many Instagram videos with bear encounters where these two guys are in a tree and it's like climbing up the tree, or someone's like on their porch and they're just sitting there. I mean, I don't know what. We didn't even have bear mace. We had like mace from your mom buying me mace because of some stranger talking to me in Lawrenceville while walking the dog. So she bought me mace for Christmas.
Okay, wait a minute. There's more to that story.
We don't need to get into that story. It's not about
He
camping.
wrote a note and left it on our door with his number on it.
Yeah, we don't need to mace him over it. It's just a phone number. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a bear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. But yeah, the bear wouldn't be taken down by human male mace.
Right. Mace intended for the male gender of the species.
Mace for males.
Yeah, mace for males.
For him.
For him. Mace for him. So yeah, it's definitely like, I can't remember whether or not, they had seen a bear in the area recently or if it's just precautionary, because we were staying in a campsite that was inside of the national park. So when you're going camping, you can stay at a number of different places there, but there are places that are either inside the national park, which you have to book almost a year in advance because they fill up so quick. Most of these places are like very low functioning, right? So they don't have power. They don't have running or like flushing toilets or showers a lot of the times. It's just like a slop sink and a pit toilet.
Sounds yummy.
It is.
Slop
sink. And that's where we were staying, which now in hindsight, we kind of like those camps now because they're more secluded. They're in the actual woods. You feel like you're roughing it a little bit more, but you could also stay at things like KOAs or privately owned campsites that might have running water, shower house.
It's like Kennywood for camping.
Right. Maybe a pool and like a playground, and definitely have power.
Tennis courts,
whatever. And if you're just getting started,
zip lining,
there's definitely something to that. There's definitely like a rewarding part to that. Because you do want to shower, because you do feel gross, and running water when doing dishes is so fucking important. And there's a moment where it's much later in the journey, and I don't know if we'll get to it today, but there's a moment where we end up at a campsite that does not have running water, and it's pump water, and you have to like do this like bucket thing that is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I just ran into that at the site I was at. Was it last weekend? 2 weekends ago at Scarlet Knob. That's all they had, so you had to pump it, and we only had one bucket. We didn't have another bucket, so we just made a mess and had like a mat to put drying dishes on and put that on the dirt, and like that worked, but it just seemed very wasteful. So all those things you mentioned are great, but I would love to just go even like more, would you call it low functioning?
Yeah.
Like
low-fi, low-tech, whatever you want to say.
There's primitive.
Yes,
primitive
that's
is
a good
the
word
word.
for it.
So like, let's take the Bronco, and we're not near anyone. Like, let's go find a trail or I don't know, somewhere where the Bronco can go.
Yeah.
And there's no one there. Like, that seems a little scarier because you're completely alone. You don't have like the comfort of humans near you that are also in their tents. We could have done that with the van too. Or backpacking. I guess backpacking, right? We've never done that, but you just kind of go out and camp where you can, and you're not really around a slop sink or a
Right.
nice bathroom. You are shoveling your poo, digging a hole, cat hole.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sunday, August 5th, 2018. The morning comes quickly. Today is the first day of exploration. We move slowly through breakfast. Eggs, bacon, and coffee with a few grinds floating in it. The meal felt like an accomplishment. We had managed to pack, transport, and cook food. The small victory was a good start to a day of learning. That is, quite honestly, one of the most rewarding parts is the first meal you cook outside. On any trip. Period.
Yeah, it is. Because you're like, how the hell am I going to cook what I normally cook outside?
Yeah.
But they make camp stoves and little teeny stoves with pots. And it's really just cooking at home. Like, it's the same thing.
That's how you treat it.
I thought I had to bring all these fancy meals and like bring all this food I wouldn't actually eat, but like if say you were like a bodybuilder, right? Because I think I was like doing powerlifting.
You were
meets
prepping
then.
for a meet.
So I was just like trying to eat decent, still hiking. I don't know. I don't think I really needed to do that, but you can eat what you're used to. But I think the most rewarding is starting a fire and cooking a steak and catching it on fire and then eating it. Like that.
Yes.
Because like we cooked a bunch of breakfasts.
Yeah.
Breakfast. Okay. So we cooked a bunch of breakfasts. I don't know how, whatever.
Yeah.
That's like a spelling word for you.
Breakfast-eye.
Breakfasts. It just sounds weird.
Yeah.
Cast iron sounds great, but you gotta have like the glove. What do you do with all the grease? Like, we just did car camping, so you're able to bring a lot more cooking fun things with you. But yeah, the first meal you're like, holy shit, I'm in the woods eating pancakes. Like, this doesn't seem right.
Right. And there's so depending on when you make camp and when you make your first meal or whatever, it normally hits me at the first breakfast though.
What hits you? Diarrhea?
No, just that feeling of like, all right, I'm here. Is that first sip of camp coffee.
And you have to time it because,
yeah.
Camp coffee.
Yeah,
Hikes.
you don't want to be on a hike and have to poop is what she's getting at. Yeah.
I mean, you do like want to do that, but like, I don't know, just try to time it.
Okay. On the drive down, we listened to a podcast called Wild Ideas Worth Living. This podcast is sponsored by REI and hosted by someone who has become a guiding voice to us, Shelby Stanger. The podcast features a number of adventurers who dared to dream big and jump in with both feet first. On this particular episode, she interviewed Captain Liz Clark. Part of the conversation talks about embracing whatever scenario you're in with an open mind and a whole heart. Liz's quote to Shelby was, "I have found the less I resist, the more rewarding the adventure." The quote stuck with both of us and would become a phrase that we would repeat often. So allow me to read it a second time. This is actually the third time we'll say it on this podcast. The less you resist, the more rewarding the adventure. And we were lucky enough to, after this, meet Captain Liz Clark.
Was it after?
It was after.
Okay. Yeah. So Captain Liz Clark wrote a book called Swell in Patagonia, Pittsburgh, in Shadyside.
Yep.
They have events, a lot of adventurous people that write books. So she was one of the people doing a book tour. And she had the books for sale, and she talked about how she lived on a boat for 12 years and all the different experiences and places and people she met, and having to fix her boat herself and like preparing for it. And there was like another quote. It was like tits to the wind, right?
Yeah.
So
that's what she wanted to call the book, was Tits to the Wind.
Yeah.
And the publishers were like, "Do you have another name?" And so she named it after her boat, Swell.
Yeah.
But That is a famous photo. Is Captain Liz standing broadside and broad-assed, just facing out to the wind, completely butt naked, and has become a bit of a calling card for us as well.
I just think that's so cool that maybe she got this boat from someone else, whatever.
She did, but she took care of it and had to
like,
completely redo the whole boat.
Yeah, she spent like 3 years getting ready, went with her mom, and then eventually her mom left. She was on her own, had to fix things herself. I think she was like blogging while she was doing it, and eventually like Patagonia, I think, saw her stuff. It took pictures of her. And her book just kind of goes through like a couple of years worth. She also has a cat, or had a cat, on the boat. The cat died. She got another cat. But I just think like a life like that's really cool. Yeah. Just being out there on your boat, doing whatever you want,
Right.
Boat things.
All right. Needless to say, this quote, we said a lot, but did not embody as much as maybe we should have. After breakfast, we pulled out the map of the Smoky Mountains and plotted our day. We received a tip that Cades Cove was a scenic drive that is famous for spotting wildlife along the path. Cades Cove also happens to meet up with a trail called Abram Falls Trail, which leads to a breathtaking waterfall. Side note here, this is another awesome tip for everybody, is all the information was provided to us by the RAI National Parks app. Make sure you download this if you're going to go touring in one of the national parks. It was our Bible for this trip and has served as the Bible for us in all of the national parks journeys we've gone on.
Yeah. It doesn't have every national park and every hike, but the way that it's set up is like Smokies, they're very popular. So when you click on it, it's going to give you like the top hikes to go on. It rates them by difficulty, and that was just easily for us, a no-brainer. Like, don't need to think about it. Just use this app, click on this, be like, oh, it's a 5-miler or 10-miler.
Yeah.
Like, it's roughly this amount. There's reviews. There's probably other apps for that, but I think they do a really good job. And I think you can probably like save some of that stuff offline.
Sure.
So when you're in the woods, don't get service.
Also, at this moment, I think we were at a gas station and somebody told us Cades Cove. So another tip, talk to locals. They know this shit better than you do. I don't care how much research you know. They know what's cool. They know where to go. We got to play pickup pond hockey on our honeymoon because we were talking to locals.
Right. Yeah. We just found a rink or a pond hockey rink. I don't know what you call it, because there's tons of them, and we just saw people playing and we just played with them, So
talk to locals, let them know you're from out of town and you're just trying to find the cool shit that nobody else knows about.
But don't talk to all the locals, because stranger danger.
Okay, stranger danger. As we sipped our coffees, we felt confident that it would be a good first day in the mountains. We departed in the car that afternoon. When we departed in the car that afternoon, we were clueless just how difficult simple navigation was going to be without a GPS, telling us the exact route and the exact time in which we should be arriving. Using maps and street signals was not something that was in our skill set at that point in time. That would be a good thing to start trying to do. A drive that should have taken half an hour turned into 2 hours. We finally reached Cave Cove, hungry, filled with anxiety, and feeling like maybe we had made a mistake. We entered the park with a line of cars coasting at about no more than 5 miles an hour. This pace would continue for an hour until the line of cars came to a complete stop.
I just remember there was really no wildlife to be seen.
No.
It was like all this, such a long drive. And then like the crow, right, was like there's like a quote about the crow in there that was staring at us.
Here's Anastasia's thoughts. Oh my God. Well, it's kind of like the scene in Jurassic Park where the Jeep pulls up to the T-Rex cage and they release the goat. In your mind, you're like, this is going to be awesome, but actually nothing happens. It's funny because as we entered the loop, there was a crow sitting on this post, and it looked like he was laughing, like, ha ha ha, you stupid humans, nothing is going to happen. The whole thing just felt like a tourist trap. You were basically in an amusement park waiting in line, but I was worried there would be no payoff. Basically, worst zoo I've ever been to.
I think it might have just been the wrong time. Like,
We were there too late in the
yeah,
day.
like the animals weren't waiting for us to be there. Like, we missed them.
Yeah. And that's what we found. And I don't recommend bumping into animals on the trail because, like, we've bumped into
gosh.
elk and
Yeah.
shit. And you don't realize how big those motherfuckers are until you have to walk around them and they have a calf with them. And you're like, what do we do? Or, like, a marmot is at a rock at level with your face and he's, like, hissing at you and you mace him.
You only have male mace.
You only have male mace. But it's definitely it's a humbling, as much as climbing the mountain is a humbling experience, interacting with an animal in any way, shape, or form on the trails is intense. But if you are like, no, I want to fucking see some shit, you either have to get up at the ass crack of dawn or go at night. Because that is, they're especially in the summer when you would be doing these things, they don't come out. They're hiding under, bushes and trees and shit, trying to cool off and just lay low while it's hot out. And then at night they come out to eat. And that's really that's when we saw the elks in Colorado and pretty much everything we've seen is later at night.
I think if you want to see animals and you know that there's certain animals in the location you're at, probably need to do some research to know when to see them. But, I don't want to see a bear, but I'm sure there's animals that, the elk didn't mess with us. Certain things, like maybe you can find out, how dangerous is it to be this close to them? I don't know enough about all the animals.
Yeah.
So if I knew and felt prepared of like what to do, because they only really tell you what to do about bears.
Right.
Maybe there's like mountain lion signs, but we did see like a mountain lion sign in Yosemite.
Yeah.
On that one mountain, but yeah, maybe there's an app that's like, you're gonna go here. Here's the animals you're gonna see. Here's the mace you've got to bring, or just like they're not trying to hurt you. Like,
yeah,
be careful.
Yeah, just keep in mind that's where they live. How would you like it if somebody walked into your house and then just started staring at you while you were watching episode 6 of Dave?
Yeah, I wouldn't like that at all.
Right. As we were sitting in a dead standstill, the words from the podcast ran through my head. So I threw my whole weight into the situation. I turned on Kanye West's album, Life of Pablo.
Animals love that shit.
Cranked the volume to full blast and pulled over to make lunch.
Yeah.
Almost as if the world recognized the effort of letting go and accepting our situation, a sign for a trail had appeared. Soggy Bottom Trail would lead us to Abram Falls and give us a chance to salvage the tourist trap we found ourselves in. Go ahead.
Like, you're calling it a tourist trap, but it wasn't like we were trying to go to Gatlinburg, Like,
No,
it's just like a little loop.
That was the words we used, that
Yeah,
it felt like a tourist trap because it was. And what you'll find as you get into this stuff is anything that's a driving loop is not as rewarding as when you get out on your feet and go for it. And a hike that's only a mile is not as rewarding as a 5 mile, which is not as rewarding as a 10 mile, which is not as rewarding as a 12 mile. You do have to be physically ready to handle that kind of shit, and it's going to suck when you do anything longer than a mile or 2 miles.
Nah, 2 miles is fine.
2 miles. I said anything longer than that.
Yeah. Depends on the elevation, the climb.
Yeah. True.
The elevation is like what? Continuously climbing up is what wears you, like, wore my knees down.
Right.
Steps for a long time. That
well,
hurts.
and it's not always the up that kills you, but Anastasia thinks the down is the worst.
Yeah, and we don't even have hiking poles, so maybe we'll get some poles and talk about our pole adventure.
Poling. Okay. We also discovered that. Oh, here we go. Without hesitation, we jump out of the car and begin our hike. Soggy Bottom Trail essentially leads you through a bog along a river. About half a mile in, we reach an intersection with the Abram Falls Trail. We also discovered that had we stayed in the car a little longer, we could have parked at the trailhead instead of adding the additional mile to our hike. It also became apparent to us that perhaps we were over-prepared. Being passed by people wearing flip-flops, jeans, and carrying a single plastic water bottle. Immediately, I was heartbroken. I felt dorky and out of place, kind of like the kid in school with a wheelie backpack. If Anastasia was fussy in the car while we were sitting in a line that was never going to end, I was downright pissed.
You added some words.
I
That's
did.
cool.
I wondered if the whole trip would be like this. How do we spend all this money and all this time preparing for hikes that could be managed by a toddler in a pair of Skechers?
Hold on. You don't know where the kid with the Skechers is going. You don't know how far they're going. A lot of parents take their kids like partially in the trail and never really go. Like, remember the one time there was like a dad with the kid on the shoulders and it was like already really late and they just turned around?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to. It's all in your head. And it's better to be more prepared than underprepared because things do happen. It rains, you might fall, like the kid with the Skechers and the water bottle. If he falls, it's going to be bleeding. Bears are going to smell his blood.
Bears are sharks?
I don't know.
What you're saying?
Is that how bears work?
Bears are sharks? Is that how they work? They smell blood?
It does feel weird when you're wearing a backpack, your REI backpack with like your first aid kit and your Mountain House meals and shit, and they've got a water bottle. There was a guy one time that just had like 3 water bottles and we had like backpacks on, but you don't need to judge yourself like that.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned.
I think keep in mind this was our first time and a lot of this it was all new to us. But I've now come to the point where like I rather be over prepared. We've had scenarios where someone had a blister break. We've had scenarios where we had explosive diarrhea. I had explosive diarrhea. And being prepared for those things when they happen feels a lot better than feeling dorky when you see some kid, a toddler in Skechers rising up this cliff.
Yeah, if you have explosive diarrhea and you have nothing on you.
But a water bottle.
I would just go back to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I would sit in it and go back to. I would just
drive back.
I wouldn't
all
even
12
stop.
Hours. Yeah, just straight
just
back.
Keep going.
After what felt like forever, we finally reached the falls. Scattered around a moving pool of water were people resting on the rocks, taking in the pure force of nature. It was things like this that we had been craving. It was this exact scene at a wading pool at a foot of a waterfall that drew us out here in the first place. As we settled along the water's edge, we sat down our packs and removed the water bottles and snacks from our bag. I noticed a couple in the water. Immediately, the urge to jump in rushed over me like the water over the cliff's edge. As I debated in my mind the pull of the water, the safety of this thought, I spotted a man 40 years my senior beginning to wade into the water. I couldn't hold back anymore. I immediately stripped down and joined him. The water was cold, the current was strong, but I was in the wading pool of a waterfall in the middle of the mountains. Almost like a baptism, the water washed away my misery. All right.
Yeah, you just jumped in and you were with that old man and you just
hanging out.
You just did it. You didn't plan it. You just went and did what you like to do.
I highly recommend getting in water on all of your trips. Obviously, if it's like cold out, don't do it. But like, there's something about the rush of roaring water over your body in some way, shape, or form that's just very soothing, I guess is a good way to put it.
Or find a hot spring.
With people naked in it. All right. Once we hiked back to the car, we were stuck in the line again. The almost 40-mile trek back to camp was driven at about 20 miles an hour in the pitch black, stuck behind a car that we would stuck behind a car that we not so lovingly named Darcy. We imagined it was driven by an old woman whose main purpose in life was to cause us pain. But in spite of all this, we were happy. We arrived to camp at 10 p.m. and decided to try to start a fire. This activity would prove to be the breaking point for both of us. For half an hour, I tried to start the fire, and by that point, I was at the end of my rope. I started yelling at the fire in the wood, and every injustice that I had felt had wronged us to this point. Anastasia took this moment to make light of the situation, placing taglines at the pathetic sight she saw in front of her. Would you like to read your taglines?
Sure, I don't even remember this. When it's cold and you can't start a fire, when you're head to toe in Patagonia and still can't start a fire, when you spend $1,000 at REI and you still can't start a fucking fire. I said this?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
You were just making fun of me as I was like trying to like do this.
Was this before we got the axe?
Yes, this is before we get the axe.
So we didn't have wood that was small enough to catch. I think we had fire starter and like lint, dryer lint, but the wood might have even been like damp too, because I bet the Smokies is kind of like here where it's like humid a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, it's annoying when you just want to do something and you like try so hard and you can't do it.
Right. I would highly recommend practicing starting a fire before you leave. You don't need a fire.
There's different techniques.
You can do a bunch of different shit and not have a fire. You can even buy things that are self-contained fires. But like, if you really want a fire and that's like something that you're excited about when you go to camp, practice somewhere. Because like, if you're relying on that fire to illuminate your situation, keep away bugs, keep away anything, it's not as easy as it fucking seems. Especially when you're exhausted and all you want to do is eat or go to sleep and you just want to start a little fire. Like it quickly becomes a problem.
Was that the first fire you ever started and it was also in the dark?
Yes.
And you didn't know, like, you probably knew how to set it up because you've been to many fires in your life, like backyard fires, right?
Well, so I can't even remember who set up backyard fires or how they did it. But like all of our adult camping trips were with Noah or Chris from Thick Bikes.
Yeah.
So they were the fire marshals, for lack of a better term, and like they would be the ones that would set it up, and I would help go collect sticks or like break wood or whatever, but I was never the one actually with my hands in it doing it. And now, you know, we get to the point where, you know, our friend Dylan and I have a console before we start every fire discussing how exactly we're gonna do it.
I just, on my trip 2 weeks ago, I started one because I was watching, what is his name? Rob's friend.
Oh, Matt Libby.
Okay, I was watching Matt. He was the one always doing the fire. It was never Rob or Trista. And the one morning I was like, I'm going to do this. So I got out our axe, and it's dull. And I'm trying to split wood and like nothing's happening. So Libby has a sharper axe. It's like got a special angle to it. And I made a bunch of little pieces. And I put those in the center, but then I cheated because I had a fire starter in a Ziploc bag. But I did like the, I guess I did like the log cabin. I didn't do the teepee.
Yeah.
Where like when we went, I would do the teepee a lot. I don't know what I like better. I think the log cabin, it's sturdier because the teepee, you're like hoping that it kind of lays on the other ones. Yeah. But I don't know. Starting it without a fire starter is like a whole nother. Like, you got to get small enough pieces.
Right. After seeing she wasn't helping the situation, she asked to try her hand. That's you gonna try the fire.
Oh, God.
Another half an hour passes, but her efforts fell short. The next conversation gives me hope that we are the type of couple who can handle anything that is thrown at us. Anastasia, this is fucking dumb. Her tone had changed from sarcastic humor to a form of anger she rarely reaches. It's just stupid. Why can't we start a fucking fire? Josh. I knew we'd need a fucking axe, but no. We just fucking got what the guy told us to get. The guy at REI had told us to get this like little hand knife thing, and that would be enough. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Anastasia. Whatever. I'm just going to cook on the stove. Josh, I'm going to fucking bed. Fuck this whole day.
A lot of fucks in this convo. A lot of Fs.
Anastasia, holding the package of meat in her hand, aggressively asks, "So you don't want any of this?" I begin to raise my voice in frustration with her attempt to cook a meal at damn near midnight. Josh, I just don't think it's a good idea to cook. Anastasia, why? We're fucking hungry. Josh, let's just go to bed. It's not worth it. Anastasia, this is fucking stupid. I hate all of this. Why is this so hard? Why is this stupid trip so hard? We hug each other. Josh, I don't know, baby. I'm sorry. Anastasia, me, I'm just so frustrated. Josh, I know. We decided it was best to try to sleep and try it again in the morning.
I feel like we have a lot of times where we're like, we want to eat food, but it's so late, and then it's like, I don't even want to cook all this stuff. I just want to go to bed. Like we just did it the other night. Like, I'm going to
we
bed.
did that at our house.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
We couldn't have the like ideal little camp night, because the fire was going to make it better, but we spent so much time on the fire that it was just too frustrating.
Also, if you are in this scenario, always cook over fire. Like, don't cook over the fire, but like cook and then start a fire. Because when you're out there, cleaning dishes it's longer. It's a longer process because generally you have to go to a sink or a pump or whatever, and it's just a more manual process. It takes longer. It's not as simple and fast as doing it at your house. So cooking in general just takes longer when you're out there. And a lot of the times when we're on these trips and stuff, we're not getting back to camp until the sun's already gone down or it's starting to get late, and you are starving because you've just been, stretching your body's limits all fucking day, and all you want to do is eat. But you have to respect how much time it takes because it is a lot. And it's not like a eat and go to bed scenario. It's like an eat and then maybe an hour and a half later go to bed scenario.
Yeah, the dishes, because if there's bears, you don't want any animals to be attracted to it.
Yeah, so you have to clean up everything. But
like, what else you got to do?
Yeah, what else? You're just hanging out in the fucking middle of the woods. So get a beer, put on some tunes, and cook something. That is going to conclude episode 1.
That's it.
And we'll leave him on a cliffhanger. Next time we do this, Anastasia takes her shirt off. If that doesn't get you coming back, I don't know what would.
Are you kidding?
Well, no. In the next part of the journey is the tits to the wind.
I thought you meant like I have to sit here with my shirt off.
No. Well, I mean, if you want to, it would really help our viewership.
Yeah. Buy me a sad boy summer shirt.
Buy you a sad boy summer shirt?
Yeah. Don't you want to challenge many fourth graders?
That's right.
To cover me up.
Oh, to cover you up.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Sorry, I was confused. I was like, I'm gonna stay with my shirt off. This is a weird podcast.
No. Just that is the tits to the wind moment from this adventure.
Okay, tits to the wind.
Yeah, is what happens next. But
cool.
All right. This has been a great depression. Anastasia, thank you so much for coming in and doing this with me. I love you very much.
I love you.
All right. It's been a great depression. Make sure you go buy a fucking shirt. Woo! And it's your ticket to the All Request AGD Radio in August.
Josh is fighting 6 fourth graders with his words.
And your ticket to watch me fight 6 fourth graders now, 6 of them. Was that 3?
We need more.
All
Double.
right. However many fourth graders.
Up the ante.
With my words, the pen is mightier than the sword. This has been a great depression. Remember, we are now in your brains.